Good morning, everyone. My name is Lin Shi Kong, and I'm one of the organizers of the Bridge Conference. First of all, I want to thank all of you for coming to the event. I know many of the Hunter students are coming directly from the library because I know tomorrow is the final exams are taking place. We thank again for your participation. Also, we are very grateful for the time and participation of the speakers. Some of them are directly from China just for this event. And most importantly, it is our honor, great honor and privilege to have the Dalai Lama of Tibet as our keynote speaker. And I'd like to report to His Holiness in this conference room, there are around 230 students. Half of them are Hunter College students, and the other half are non-Hunter students or young professionals from New York and other cities. Among all the students, around, I would say, 50% are Chinese, 40% are Tibetans, and the rest, be it students or State Department officials. They are, unfortunately, the minorities in this room. Well, you can tell this is an event about minorities, about indigenous people facing a superpower that does not understand very well the minorities' spiritual beliefs and their way of life. Some may argue it's just the same tireless pattern throughout human history, because might makes right. In ancient times, the Romans built roads, buildings, temples, marketplaces, and spread the Roman way of life by brutal force, and that's the end of the story. And in our times, this is happening in Tibet and in a number of other regions and countries. Well, even in movie theaters, in Pandora, in the Avatar. But I don't agree with this simplification, because time after time in our history, the better side of human history, I mean, people have declined this view and instead have chosen the path of extraordinary tolerance, willing and even eager to live with seeming disorder and very real risks for a higher, albeit highly elusive life, in which we entrust our fates to the pursuit of solutions instead of to a policy of silence and exclusion. And this is part of the motivation that a bunch of Chinese and Tibetan friends organized this conference, because we are soul-searching individuals seeking our own destiny, because we feel the best way to resolve tension, bias, and understanding is through the free exchange of ideas among people with different perspectives from all walks of life. However, this may seem too idealistic sometimes. My mom told me before, "You are a rebel." I said, "What?" "A rebel without cause." She said, "You're not a Tibetan, and the Chinese government is so powerful. Why don't you just stay away from this?" And I told her, if you really think Tibet is part of China, then how could you ignore the plight of 6 million Tibetans? They are our brothers and sisters. Besides, I think our generation has a unique mission. The mission of our father's generation, like that of my friend Juntao Wang, is to help establish constitutional democracy and thereby to correct many social problems. Our generation will work to heal the nation's wounds with love, patience, and tolerance, to build not just economic prosperity, but eventually help construct a new order in which every individual will live with human dignity and all kinds of opinions can express without fear or threat, so that eventually we can help to renovate and rejuvenate the culture of East Asia. After these words, my mom looked at me and was like this, and took a deep breath and said, "Okay, go get your lunch now." And she added, "Now you are not a rebel, you are insane." Well, she also said, being insane sometimes is good. She said the world cannot become better until people stand fast on what they believe to be right and just. It requires a will, a determination which is itself hard to achieve. She's watching live broadcasting now, and she told me before that she is proud of our work and is proud of my choice to spend a lifetime service to China's public interest. As for myself, starting in one of the greatest countries in the world, I try to understand the world in all its complexity and to think about the grave problems as well as the great principles of freedom. And I find myself increasingly concerned about the need to secure and realize these freedoms in my own country, in the increasingly vibrant, challenging society that will, in all probabilities, define the span of our lives. Because we have been in a pivotal period in history. Today, our peers in China and here also, I would say, come to college in texting, and we're going out without Twitter. We enjoy a psychological craze to adopt the latest fashion, style, and outlook of the West, thanks to modern China's fast economic expansion. But is rapid growth really worth at the expense of the environment and of the interests and dignity of the people in the so-called lower social strata? When media is controlled by the state, websites are blocked, discussions forbidden, when workers and peasants denied basic rights, when scholars and journalists languish in prison. What is Chinese modernity? Is China really modern? During our conference planning, we had constructive dialogues with a few consuls from China's Consulate General in New York. In these free-flow discussions, they seem strikingly confident about China's peaceful rising to modernity. And one of the points I have made very clear to them is that our country will never come to grips with modernity until it re-explores, critically re-evaluates, and reappropriates her own classical culture. Simply taking unworthy nationalism, simply taking our traditions as a series of formulas and slogans so as to reprocessing it in the interests of an unworthy nationalism, or simply building Confucian institutes abroad while ignoring 仁义礼智信 at home will not help, because in the end, only a self-confidently Chinese China can be a creative China. But of course, it must be a China that asks new questions of its classical heritage through cross-cultural perspectives, a China enriched by deep encounter with other cultures, including that in the Tibetan plateau. And now, the Dalai Lama is here. I just said China needs to ask new questions. What questions to ask him? About history, culture, politics, spiritual values, or Chinese-Tibetan relations, or simply about ourselves. In my opinion, understanding the self and other people is a lifetime project. For example, what temptations so easily turn angelical impulses into their depraved opposite? Why, for instance, does utopian thinking so often lead to nightmarish reality? What happens when human beings reject responsibility for their own actions and for one another? How does that come about? How do people persuade themselves to behave wrongly and then defend themselves from criticism and from self-recognition? These are serious things to contemplate, and none of the answers that easily come to mind is very reassuring, because they are at the center of human frailty, and therefore at the heart of human reality everywhere. I pray for wisdom, and on behalf of all the participants of the Bridge Conference, I cordially invite His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet, to share his opinions and guidance. Thank you.
Не спасибо.